Hey, Paul. Good evening. This is Ryan with TrendLizard.com. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for the email. Always interesting comments. And I'm going to take a look at the three things that you asked me to take a gander at. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. I believe an update. I think we looked at that for you before. We're going to take a look at silver, the continuous contract, and then BTCS, which is a blockchain technology company, as far as I am able to tell, and we'll do it in that order. Starting with Bitcoin, we've taken a look at this guys a bunch of times, and not much has changed. There has been some interesting near-term action, so we will update that, but we'll start from the beginning just to keep our perspective. The little downside action off its inception in 2014, at least with our data that we have, and then from there, a nice five-wave advance up into the 2017 high, a large three-wave pullback, and since then, since that 2018 low, a five-wave move, in our estimation, currently in the fourth wave of this five-wave move off of that 2018 low. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this price action to show you why we think it is a fourth wave and a counter trend move. So here is a zoomed-in view. For one, the overall form looks like a nice ABC pattern. The other reason we believe that this is a fourth wave and not maybe like a fourth down and a fifth up here is the three-wave look of this advance off of July's low. Looks very clearly like a three-wave move. Folks have asked me about this action here. This looks like a pretty clear three-wave move to the upside, and it was nearly completely retraced. I do not believe that this is a first and second wave. It doesn't add up for me. This looks like the low to that A wave, and then a pretty clear three-wave move to the upside from there. So where the priority is now is determining when this down leg off of October's high, might have been November's high, whatever the case may be, whatever this down leg was here off of the 21 high, is going to complete. Gave us a nice bounce in January and early February, which showed potential to maybe be the end of the larger ABC pullback, but we have found that that is not the case. Price has turned lower, and let's go ahead and zoom in on that action there. So here's that down leg. If you look at the recovery off of January's high, it ended up taking a very clear ABC form. It's been mostly retraced by this trendy looking downside action here. So what we're seeing is all suggesting that a low is not yet in. If we take a step back out, that makes sense because for one, it hasn't retraced this low or retested this low, hasn't even retested this slightly advancing trend line here, which would make sense for it to do. Whatever the case may be, it does not look like a low is in yet. It could be getting closer. We would expect a little bit more weakness, and we're kind of seeing the same type of setup on different cryptos as we follow all of them, or a lot of them anyway, now at TrendLizard.com. We had set up a trade to buy Bitcoin if it was able to continue higher, but it was not able to do so. So that trade has been removed. But that is certainly something you can follow along with, Paul, seeing as how you are a professional level member at TrendLizard.com. So follow along. I don't think a low is in place yet. We're expecting additional weakness in a fifth wave down to complete that larger ABC pullback. Once we get that, then we can start looking for trendy upside movement. That would give us a reason to buy this guy, but it does not look like a low is in yet, according to our Elliott Wave analysis. So let's go on now to silver, $SILVER, the continuous contract. This shows all the data that we have dating back to 1980. From then, it was trading at a pretty high point, lost a lot of its value into the 90s, and then in the mid-90s, it started putting together a very impressive run in what fits as a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth wave to the upside. Once it completed that in 2011, it embarked on a very large pullback that we have labeled as an ABC pullback. And then off of that 2020 low, we've seen some constructive upside price action here that looks like the base for a larger advance. Looks similar to something like this, where you have that up move, then you have that sideways action, looking for more upside action to emerge once this counter trend price action ultimately completes. Let's zoom in a little bit here. This looks just more at recent price action, and the reason I use this time frame here is to show you how it lines up with SLV, the silver ETF that we follow. And this is all the data we have going back to 2006. If we jump back to that silver contract here, you can see it's the same price data. Everything is moving lockstep. So in order to get information on our opinion, what is going to happen with silver, you can certainly follow along with SLV, which we update every single day at TrendLizard.com. So hopefully that is helpful to you, Paul. Let's go ahead and zoom in now, take a look at more proximate action here. This looks at the advance off of the 2020 low. It shows the very clear and strong trendy 5-wave advance, followed by the choppy sideways counter trend muck that it's been stuck in for over a year now, a year and a half, honestly. And the question, really the only question that we need to answer is, when will this pullback end? And the only way to really do that is to find a spot where it makes sense for this downside pattern to be complete and when we start seeing some trendy upside action. Unfortunately, that is not what we see yet. Let's zoom in just on that pullback. If you look at just the action off of the, which basically the ultimate low is recorded in September. You can say, oh, this kind of looked trendy. Well, it wasn't the start of the uptrend or the resumption of the uptrend because it was completely retraced by this down leg here into December's low. So obviously this did not mark a low. So then the next question would be, well, maybe this marked a low. If we try that, what we see is a very clear ABC up leg here. This also doesn't look like trendy upside action. So if we step back out, see all this action is just basically trading sideways. This is not how we expect uptrends to resume. You see what happened in this action right here off of the 2020 low. Obviously a fairly extreme example, but generally you see a sharp ending pattern and then trendy upside movement. We're seeing nothing like that here. Who knows how to label it? It just does not look over. I have it as an X wave with another maybe ABC to come. Whatever the case may be, there's no sign of a low yet, and we need it. What we should see is some type of sharper action to the downside and then trendy action to the upside. And like you said in your email, once it gets above 30, boy, there's some pretty free sailing all the way up to 50. Nothing in the way from it retesting its all-time high there. So that will be a bullish event when that happens. In the meantime, it's just a waiting game, just waiting for this chop to end, for some sign that it's over, and to see some trendy upside action. We're just not there yet, so that waiting game continues. All right, so let's take a look at BTCS now. BTCS Incorporated, ticker BTCS. This is a little bit of an extreme view, but it drives home the point. Incepted back in 2010. This is a linear scale, so everything is just a 50,000 point move, which is incredible. It's only trading at $4.19. With splits and all that other stuff, at one point it was trading at about $1 million. So this guy has, needless to say, been in a very large downtrend. Obviously, that's not what you're concerned with, but it sets the perspective because when the trend's down, something has to happen for it to indicate that the trend is up before we can really get excited about it. So let's look at this in a logarithmic scale. Here is that scale. Still, obviously, a pretty clear downtrend. Maybe one possible way you could look at this in a bullish light is like, okay, we can generally see a nice 5-wave move to the downside. Maybe this marked an important low and this is the start of something bigger to the upside. Unfortunately, all we really have to do is say, okay, well, this could be the first and second, and this could just be a third and fourth for a larger 5th-wave move. Pretty hard to be bullish just strictly on that. Again, and it's such a big downtrend, it's hard to be bullish. So the next approach would be, let's just look at this price action off the 2019 low. Does this have the potential to be the start of a new trend? That's a good question. Let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look. Here's that price action, and it does not look trendy by any measure that I can find. It looks like it's littered with 3-wave patterns. This first up leg here looks like an ABC move, and then you look at the overall pattern, it looks like an ABC move. Okay, how about maybe what happened to the downside here will give us a reason to think that it's about to be bullish. What we see is this super deep retracement, and again, because it's a logarithmic scale, we don't fully appreciate how much this is retraced, but this yellow box right here, this pullback should have found a low in this area if this was just a small correction of this up leg and price was going to continue higher. Instead of finding a low there around 13, it moved all the way down to 3, so that also is not a bullish thing. So let's go ahead and just zoom in on this price action in 2020 off of the 2021 high here. This downside action isn't terribly clear, but what is clear is this price action since then has just been a sideways chop. So again, if this was going to put in a low, we would expect something trendy to the upside. We're just not seeing it. We're seeing sideways action, which looks like probably a B wave, maybe a second wave ahead of lower levels. So one last effort to see if there's anything bullish going on here. Let's zoom in on this action in 2022. If we look at the up leg in 2022, this also looks like a 3-wave counter trend move followed by a retracement that is much deeper than we would expect if this was the start of something important. So we've looked at this thing on about 5 different time frames, and it may seem a little confusing, but the bottom line is there's nothing happening on any time frame that looks bullish in any way. We're not seeing trendy upside action. We're not seeing anything to suggest that a reversal is imminent. as long as that's the case, it would be very hard to trade this guy, at least based on Elliott Wave Analysis, because there's just nothing happening that suggests the massive downtrend it's been is over. So I hope that is helpful, Paul. Thanks again for being a member at TrendLizard.com. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Take care.